Hi, I'm Griffin, and this is my co-host Foley, the rabbit, and we're here for Other Planets.
Come with me, there's something you should see. Other planets, we are not alone.
So, today's topic is autism myths. I do not have time to get into all the myths about autism because there are so many things that are wrong. But what I did was I went ahead and I googled a couple of kind of just like autism or like autism is or autistic people, like some key phrases in Google. And then the first couple of results that Google suggested to me, because that's what people usually search, I'm going to cover them as topics because they're all, like, just those phrases are myths and kind of sometimes wrong or offensive or just tricky. So let's get into it. All right, the first one is autism is an epidemic. No. So an epidemic is a disease. Autism is not a disease. You don't catch it and you can't be cured of it. Autism is a disability. Yeah, so not a disease. Also, I think the idea of autism being an epidemic stems from the fact that there's been a lot more reported cases of autism in the last 10 years, 20 years. And that's really simply because the amount of people with autism has increased because the definition of autism has become, first of all, wider to understand that autism is a spectrum. And second of all, we're getting better and better at understanding that the autism diagnosis is totally geared towards people who are either identify as boys or men, or mostly who are cisgender men. So people who have been raised as boys, or identified as male at birth, and still identify as male. There's a lot of different social pressures on boys and girls, and while there's not loads of evidence to say that genetically boys and girls or men and women, males and females, have any different way that they approach the world or interacting with each other, there's loads of evidence to talk about how there's really strong social pressures on women and girls to socialize, to learn social scripts, to work really, really hard to repress kind of any impulsive behaviors. So, and they get punished a lot more harshly for those by their parents a lot of the time and in school. So because we're finally understanding how to think about diagnosing women and trans people and gender non-conforming people or non-binary people, and also because the definition is opened up to become more inclusive, we know that more people have autism. It's not like more people are getting it magically, we just understand that more people have it. 2, autism is genetic. To be honest, jury's still out on that one. Some scientists believe that they've isolated some genes that might be related to some people with autism. There's not one like autism gene that's been defined. There's no assurance that like someone with autism will have autistic kids or that someone without it will or will not. So we're just not sure. And there's ways in which talking about genetics and autism can be really helpful, but at the same time, there's a lot of dialogues that kind of look to eliminate autism by identifying an autism-based gene and then encouraging pregnant people to not have children if their fetus has a gene associated with autism, which, to be honest, can really easily get into the field of eugenics. So that's that. Number 3, autism is not a disability. This is an interesting one because there might be some people with autism who don't identify as being disabled or having a disability, and that's totally cool. I think, again, I'm going to go back to the idea of this social model of disability, which essentially says that, like, we're all really different, and society has ended up being built to really, like, kind of cater to people who can walk, for example, for people who are neurotypical. And, you know, it's not about kind of going, these people have a disease or they need to be cured. It's just about going, well, you know, actually, society, we need to figure out ways to support these people better. Okay, 4, autistic people's eyes. That's a super common search term. I don't know what that means. People with autism have a hard time making eye contact because when you're looking at somebody's eyes, you're having to process a lot of information about what's going on in their voice and their face, as well as trying to project a live kind of feed of how you're feeling and what you're thinking through that eye contact. And how you project and communicate all of that is also based on a bunch of scripts you have to learn. So it's kind of like when a computer has 2 different processors that are running both at the same time. It's like you have the processor of taking all the stuff in, and then you have this processor of, like, trying to use all these scripts to know how to put everything out in a way that somebody will understand. And making eye contact just puts a load of strain on all that and makes it much more difficult. I don't know what else people mean by autistic people's eyes. Like, we have the same eyes, just eyeballs. So, I don't know. And last but not least, autistic people's IQ. IQ is not really... Oh. Foley wants to jump in on this. IQ is not really a way of talking about how smart people are, or how capable they are. IQ is really outdated. But if you're thinking about kind of intelligence or whatever, here's the thing. Autism means that your brain can and does really focus in on specific things, often called special interests, and engaging with those special interests can help be a way of, like, processing the world, of getting scripts to relate back to people. It can be a way of coping with sensory overload. And also, because we live in a neurotypical kind of based world and society, when our brains kind of lock in on a specific way of thinking or doing things, sometimes that's perceived as being really smart or capable or intelligent in that area. That's great. But that doesn't mean that people with autism automatically are, like, super gifted at everything, or math, or like, you know, like logic, or like trains. Like, it's not, it doesn't work that way. So yeah, that's not a necessary correlation, really, the idea about sort of IQ or intelligence and autism. Anyone with, no matter what their abilities are in school or in technical work or in arts or whatever, anyone can have autism. So cool, that's that. Cool, alright. News segment. So this cool thing happens. There's a kid in Winnipeg in grade 11 who lost his headphones. His name is Gavin Ramsey. And this student, who was a couple years younger than him at his high school, put together a Kickstarter to fund him new headphones, because he couldn't find his headphones. And although he said he kind of generally felt isolated and not really part of a group, he was utterly speechless, quote, and almost in tears. That was the quote from him. Because all these students kind of understood how important it was for him to have music throughout the day and to have headphones that block out some noise. So they gave him headphones, and also some extra money that they raised, and also some snacks that he liked. That's cool, because loads of times people with autism get super bullied. And, like, you know, if we can all learn not to be jerks and to try to help each other out with things like that, then that's awesome. Cool, so the spotlight. here's the thing with Spotlight. Now I do have some people who I would like to draw attention to. However, I kind of, in going through them, was aware that my network is really specific to the field of work that I'm in, and also like just to my own, just who I know, and like my own background and stuff. I would really, really, really love it if there's anyone who's watching who wants to recommend someone for me to spotlight. It can be you if you have autism. It can be somebody that you know or someone you've heard of, someone whose work that you like. It can be an artist. It can be someone who works in technology. Like literally anyone, but who you think I should spotlight. So please comment or send me a DM, and I'll start a short list of people to spotlight and do profiles on in this video. Cool. Alright, I think that's about it. That was a lot. If you have any questions about stuff that I've mentioned, any comments, please share them. That would be fantastic. And I'll get to them in another episode coming up. Alright. Griffin and Foley, signing off.
Let's make our own life.
Blanket is blue and distracting.